Well, I suppose we might want to try to kick off, and we might
Yeah.
have some folks popping in and joining us. And as I mentioned, they are going to record this, so please feel free to be on camera or off camera as it makes sense. I'll introduce myself. I'm Sue Kane, and I am coming to you live from Wenatchee, Washington. I work for the North Central Education Service District and support computer science as part of the work that I lead. And my co-host here is Shannon Thissen, and I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. So I'm Shannon Thissen, and I'm the computer science program supervisor at SPU, or at SPU, at OSPI. And Sue has been great support. I just got my doctoral candidate form signed off, so I'm really excited to get going with that. And I work with Sue, who is a tireless supporter of computer science in our state, and it's been my pleasure to be able to work with her.
Well, so we're going to kind of hustle into some of the content that we have for you that's Washington focused, because we've got to go a little bit quick. We're going to try to wrap up by 1 o'clock and make sure that you're back to your role. But we want to kind of give you an introduction and tell you a little bit about what this might look like to offer a hour of code or a family code night, and then show you what this has looked like here in Washington. And we want to kind of recognize first and foremost that bringing families in, some of you may have experienced hour of code, or you've introduced some computer science in your schools, or done some work to support computer science in schools. I know a few of you are in that role as well. And bringing families in is not something that is usually a first item, but a really important opportunity. Sometimes we have the habit of bringing families in at the very end. We want to have students building things in their classrooms, and then we do a little bit of a show and tell with families. And this is really kind of a pause and reminder that when we engage families from the very beginning, you might be creating opportunity for a student to engage that may not have otherwise seen themselves in that opportunity, and creating that support for them to have that conversation at home. And so really kind of nudging you to think about bringing families in during the learning, not just to witness what their child has done at the very end. We put a link in the slide deck here to this list. But really, there's a top 5 list here, and this is coming from STEM Next in Oregon, that highlights some best practices for family engagement. And the first one is that family engagement is a serious undertaking. So this is going to take some thought and some plan. You're not alone in doing this. There are lots of folks who are willing to help you think through what this might look like, but it is a little bit bigger lift. And so you want to plan accordingly. You want to make sure that you're thoughtful about relationships, and building relationships is as important. So connection with your families is as important as the planning for the coding activities, and make that connection authentic, that they are not an afterthought. They're kind of the focus in making that connection happen. There is no right or wrong, no one size fits all, no, it must be this way. So you know your community that you're serving, and you'll be able to make those decisions as you go through your planning. Connectedness and empowerment take time. So if you're really going to do this, it's not a one and done. It's it's something that will be an evolution over time, that you're going to build that rapport with families and kids, and bring them in, and understand that in doing this, you're making investments that probably won't be seen the next day, but over time you will start to see that empowerment in your students. And the last one is that this is a really, really important part. The learning has to be complemented by something that is fun. This is a celebration. This is an opportunity to get families and learners in, and really making it fun and engaging and exciting. Add music, add some sort of celebration element to it. Will really make this special and memorable and help your families engage. So as I said, this is Many of you are familiar with Hour of Code. You maybe done these. Oftentimes schools will do a full day in a classroom or in a library setting. This is actually a photo from an Hour of Code family engagement night. It's a little bit older student than the elementary. But what I want you to notice in this photo is this is from Quincy, Washington. And this mom, she sat down and coded the entire hour with her daughter. And she told us, I don't do computers. I don't even know how to turn it on. She needed help turning it on. But you can see it in her face how proud she is of that certificate that she got, and know that our moms and our dads, that digital literacy might not be natural to them. So this is an opportunity for them to show learning, recognize that moms and dads are doing that learning, and provide that positive affirmation for moms and dads, because that helps moms and dads know how to do that for students as well. That needs to be part of the planning, and it's really awesome. I know no other opportunities that are like this, where you can actually recognize that multi-generational learning. So we have a video here, and for the sake of time, I am actually sadly not going to play it, but fortunately, Leanne gave you some sort of snapshot videos of an Hour of Code or the Family Code Night videos in action. If you're interested in seeing what this video highlights, this is an elementary in Rock Island. Rock Island is a tiny little school, and pretty highly impacted community, low income, and a high percentage of Hispanic students. And their family code night, we filled the library, it overflowed into the hallway. Students and their families really showed up in force. And there's some video here where you can actually see Harriet Fox, who does their enrichment, kind of explain how that family code night turned out for them. So I really do want to encourage you, if we had more time, we would play that now, but I'm going to save that 3 minutes to give us some time to discuss at the end here. I do want to highlight, so in partnership with our colleague, Larry Davison in the Yakima region, we did an outreach campaign to support elementary schools with an Hour of Code. And this is something that we'd love to be able to support you with this year if you're interested. Any resources that we have are yours to use. So you'll have to follow up with us if you want some additional support. But when we really started to do outreach, kind of similar to what they were talking about in the plenary, our goal was to see if we could get this into, elementary schools across the region. And we were super excited to see 50 elementary schools in the fall of 2019 hosting evening Hour of Code family code nights. And you can see all those dots down the center of the state. And that was this effort. We want to do this sort of thing again. And we realized that everything that's going on, things might take a couple of different formats. And really, we want to be able to, put this in front of you to be creative and offer support to see how we can make this happen. I will say that we've already some of these schools are returning, and we've already been contacted by several schools across Central Washington who are going to be doing this again for a second, third, or even a fourth year in a row. Garden Heights being one of those in Moses Lake, who's here with us today. So we'll do a special shout out. This video, again, I'm gonna flip past just so we have a little bit of time to hear from you all and talk in our breakout session. But we do have a video here that will highlight, if you've never seen what an Hour of Code looks like, or an Hour of Code activity level, and you're nervous about the level of computer science or the technical aspects of hosting an Hour of Code, there's a video here that highlights just the specific interface that you're going to be working with. And it is not something that, I really feel confident in telling you this, you can handle this. It is really well laid out, and students sit down and start to do this so intuitively. In about a minute, you're up and running, and they're writing lines of code, and they've got activity, and they're showing mom and dad how to do this. And I've seen a student as young as 4 or 5 tackle it and be engaged. And I've seen a student who's 10 stay engaged the entire hour. It's a really well done platform, and it's robust and it works on a variety of devices. So if you have questions or thoughts and apprehension about trying some of these things out, reach out. We'd love to be able to walk you through this and make sure that it's something that you can you can try out ahead of time. But I assure you, you can do this. Your staff can do this. Your families can do this, and they're going to have a lot of fun. And thank you also to Shannon, who's been popping these links in the chat. We'll give you the link to the slide deck as well, so that you have all of these links to kind of go through. So Family Code Night. Family Code Night was introduced, and they're going to be putting together some additional packs. We put this session together before we knew about those packs, but this link here will take you actually to the start of the activities that you can use with your families for this 1 hour family engagement night around computer science. And I want to show you a little bit under the hood in what was in that pack to begin with, because I know John and Leanne talked a lot about what's going to be in these special edition packs they're releasing this year. And they started out with some really incredible resources to help you plan. So this link that we'll put in the chat as well would take you to the activities. So you could kind of take a look and see, what does this actually look like as far as activities? But in the toolkit that they have, you'll also find customizable resources like posters and flyers and a PSA if you wanted to do something over local media. There's email templates, there's a press release. We've done every year a collective press release from the region to help families know that there are schools all across the region who are going to be doing these nights. So there's some of these templates. There's resources for planning your event, organizational guides and tips, and translated materials for those who need those.
So Sue,
Yeah.
there is a question in the chat and regarding what are virtual and what are not virtual,
Yeah.
which are in person.
Yeah, that's a good question. So and we have, that's kind of where I was hoping to get some time to be able to talk about how some of these resources are easily adapted for a virtual setting. And then some of them are, you're going to have to kind of think through, it's a doable thing. And last year we had virtual family engagement code nights, and we used resources to be able to host those. And so, it's a completely workable thing if families are at home and you modify the agenda a little bit to be able to accommodate that. And of course, you have to think through logistics of devices, but it is absolutely 100% doable if you are in a remote, a hybrid, or a virtual environment to be able to get families to engage and do family code night together. I have done this. I did these last year. We'll do them again this year for schools. I guarantee we will have some that have to do that. And so if you have questions about that and you want to kind of think through what that looks like, really an open invitation to reach out and have that conversation. They do, as far as the materials that are in there, there's a customizable script and slide deck. There are program cards, and we were talking about, this is one of those things. You could adapt the program card as a printable, so you could kind of get a stamper, and as they complete different activities, they get stamps if you're doing it in person. But this could be done with a Pear Deck as well, where they give you they move their cursor, if you've seen Pear Deck, as they complete each activity, and everybody can see the group moving along together. And so there's some different tweaks that we could do to make this a ton of fun in a virtual space as well. There are other handouts. This is one of the handouts that just talks about the big ideas that helps bring back almost like your learning objective might be stated at the top of a lesson. Your big ideas are what you want families and kids to know when they get done with this hour. And so that handout is included. And I'm going to kind of scroll through because there are additional resources as far as the unplugged activities that don't require devices. And then there are some additional resources in that John and Leanne talked about today too, that I have not included here, obviously. I do want to make a note here that in doing a family engagement night like this is also an opportunity for you to do outreach about the resources that you have available to students. Like we did last year, a lot of ISP provider information that went out to families during these evenings. If families don't have wireless at home and there are stipends or supports that can be offered, this is a really great place to be able to have that conversation, either off to the side or in materials that are going home. While we're talking about computer science and technology, how can we help your family be able to access technology in our region? Those conversations went really well together, and families came in with those questions. So this is where I was hoping to get, and we don't have a ton of time, but I want to be able to give you an opportunity, because knowing where we are all at in Washington State right now, there is a possibility that you might be remote, you might be in person, you might be a hybrid for some families, and you're probably going to have to think through logistically how you want to try to plan ahead for that. And I really want to be encouraging here and say, I know that this is going to be a little bit of extra work. It is definitely worth it to give your families an opportunity to engage with you. So maybe if there's an idea that's or a question that you have, there's just a few of us on live at this moment. But do you have ideas or questions that you're thinking about in terms of the format?
Sue, it's Kimberly. Yeah. Hi.
Hello.
What would we do in our rural and remote areas where we really have problems with broadband? Would we have a big event around a library, a bus, something like that? Or have you done something like that?
Yeah, we've done some in really remote schools, and honestly, we did them at the school. So most of our schools on that K-20 have connections. So an evening event that opens up the elementary school, most have been done in a gym or a cafeteria. You might have to think about multiple classrooms to be able to get families to spread out. But most of our school buildings have internet connections. And so I would anchor it around that. In the event that you have to be at home with kids, we may have to think about unplugged types of activities. It would be definitely something to think through with a specific school on how you want to do it, so that you are also still getting a sense of community, so that it's not send these activities home and if you get to it sort of thing. You want to create that sense of connection and community.
I have one school district right now that's closed down because of COVID. So I was specifically thinking about that group.
We also last year had a lot of success in partnership with our libraries. So our public library system hosted some really fun Morse code types of activities. So it actually reinforced things like coding, and we were sending messages back and forth, and the kids were actually on the call making beeps and boops sounds, which was amazing. And our families were laughing and having a really great time, and also learning about code.
Thank you.
So I know we have just a couple more minutes until we wrap up. So I want to make sure that we have the link to the kit, although it sounds like there will be some new kits as well. So maybe we'll do a little bit of comparison and see what that starter pack kit looks like. And then I want to leave you with this, our contact information, and really a sincere reach out to us. We're in Washington. I'm one of 9 CS leads across the state who are supporting school districts, as is Kimberly. And so we really do want to make ourselves available to you to help you figure out what this looks like. Many of our schools will do their family code nights during the second week in December. that is not a rule you have to have. If
No.
it doesn't work for you in
No.
December, do it in January, do it in February, do a yes, and we're going to do another one in March. We want to be able to help you. And regardless of when you make this happen, I do want to encourage you to give it a try. Whew. And we made it. Are there other questions or thoughts or ideas that you want to share? Thank you so much for making time for this today. We know we added it pretty late in the game, and we're so excited that you showed up for this today.
Yes, thank you very much. And it looks like we need to go back to the main session again. So thank you for being with us. And yeah, like Sue said, just if you need help or have questions or want support, give us a call or an email.